So, I want to preface this entire video by disclaiming that I'm not a big fan of the Mechwarrior franchise. I like the idea of mech games, but never really played them since they're such a niche genre. Mechwarrior V partially aimed to try to change this while simultaneously satiating fans' desire for a new sequel to the franchise, since it's been over 15 years since there was a direct sequel. And I did find out about Mechwarrior V before all this. It's actually been announced for a couple years. I'm going to explain some context to the situation, a bit of backstory to the franchise that you might need to know, and where we are before I make the main point of this video. You're welcome to skip it, especially if you're a fan of Mechwarrior and know exactly what's going on, but if you're not knowledgeable about the series or the situation, you may want to take a listen. Thank you. In 2000, Mechwarrior IV Vengeance was released for PC by a company named Fossa Studios, which went defunct in 2007. It received good reviews, sold around 900,000 copies by 2006, and that was only in the United States. Especially for a period where PC gaming wasn't as big as it was today, these are pretty damn good numbers and had potential for something much bigger. It wasn't even the best received entry and nowhere near the oldest either. The series dates all the way back to MS-DOS in the late 80s, being a spin-off of the Battletech series. Basically, what you need to know is that Mechwarrior has a deep fan base and possibly one of the oldest in PC gaming, since it doesn't go much further back than DOS. Jumping a few more years, in 2016, they announced Mechwarrior V, a single-player, or co-op, campaign-driven, sandbox mech game on Unreal 4. Hype. Can you imagine being a fan of a series with no direct sequel for 15 years? It's like being an F-Zero fan. It was delayed a few times, which is definitely okay to most. Delaying a game, especially when you've waited on for 15 years, yeah, we want it to be good. A few months delay, even a year delay, as long as you get the game, you know. So, finally, this year, a few weeks ago from this date, the Mechwarrior website had an interesting change. The pre-order FAQ removed all mentions of the exclusive beta and Steam. User Nutty Rat on Twitter asked the president of Piranha Games, Russ Bullock, this in a tweet. A lot of folks are concerned about changes to the Mechwarrior V FAQ. He went on to mention the changes, obviously alluding to the fact that it was kind of strange that mentions of Steam were gone. This also reportedly sent the Mechwarrior V Discord into a flurry. He tried to push it under the rug, but of course the fans had no reason to really think he would do that. Another user showed him the old page on the Wayback Machine, and surely enough, if you look, the old FAQ is very different to the one that arrived on the 16th. I unfortunately don't have the one in between the one from before the 16th and today, because it's different now, and it was different then. But just about all the Mechwarrior V pre-orders saw it, and they thought it was going to foreshadow something bad. Funnily enough, he also retweeted the ever-contradicting Tim Sweeney of Epic Games before all this went down. Once he was forced to address it with proof, he explains, "It's just the FAQ for the new updated site that's launching soon, and that's why so much was removed." Oh, of course. How dare they be worried? This is a developer you can trust. Nutty Rat went on to provide context for the commotion the update the FAQ caused. Of course, this made some people in the community look like conspiracy theorists at first, saying that these changes meant that it was going to the Epic Games Store. Russ replies once more, saying that he could let those fans know it was just a site update incoming. That's all it was, just a site update. This was July 16, 2019. Nutty Rat says thanks, and that's that interaction. A few days later, it's announced that Mechwarrior V will be released exclusively on the Epic Games Store. This goes against everything the community wanted, everything they believed in, and was basically a knife in the back to the pre-orders, the 5-year fans, the 10-year fans, even the 20-year fans. I've never personally seen an argument so one-sided. There's anger, sure, but most seem to be hurt more than anything. They supported Mechwarrior Online, even though it wasn't great. They waited through the dry spell of games for upwards of 10 years. But before speaking more about that, what about that interaction from the 16th? On the 25th, there was an AMA, and in the very beginning, he addresses this interaction. Russ says that they accidentally put up the updated FAQ. This means that the fans weren't supposed to know yet that the game wasn't going to be on any other storefront. He also noted that there wasn't a confirmed date for the announcement of it being Epic Store exclusive. He maintains that he was truthful, and I don't agree. At worst, he lied, and at best, he was deceptive. Knowing that this website update came too soon, he didn't say this, and he knew what this update meant. Clearly, he wanted to milk every last pre-order out before announcing the exclusivity. Basically, the psychology of putting money into something dictates that you're less likely to take it out. I mean, let's say 10 people aren't fans of the Epic Store, put money into the game thinking they're going to get a Steam key, and then it's Epic exclusive. 8 might pull out, 1 might forget about the game, get the key later and say, well, I can't refund anymore, and then 1 might say, fuck it, I'll play the damn game. However, if all 10 aren't fans of the store and see it's going to Epic, then logically, they just wouldn't buy it. Let's go down the road that he didn't lie, and that he hasn't lied about anything. Then, why would he not tell people that the site updated early? Because then he would have to explain why Steam was removed. Then, upon being called out, he said it was just a site update. That is a lie. It was accidental. He says that in his AMA, which will be in the description. He has a history with blocking people on Twitter, so I don't want to put his voice in this video, but I assure you, I've watched the AMA, I've done my research. He lied to the fans that put their trust and money into a company that's really just blossoming as an actual development company instead of one that just makes ports. And what I just said about the update on their website is said in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the actual AMA starting, so you don't have to listen for that long to hear the source in context. So I encourage you to go watch that. So now I'm going to talk about what he said in the AMA a little bit. I'm going to try not to stay on it too long though. He thinks that there's a lot of misconception about the Epic Game Store, that it's a money grab and it's a short-sighted decision. He doesn't agree with that. He thinks this is false, and after getting quote-unquote valuable data from an Epic representative, he realized that it was a better decision for the game. He goes on to blame the Steam store for having bad discoverability, his words, and saying it's hard to see how your game is being seen and if your game is being seen on Steam. This is most likely based on his experience with their game Mechwarrior Online, which is almost entirely their fault for its dwindling fanbase. Poor support culminated with the game not being very good and kind of just dying out, not to mention no advertising existing for Mechwarrior 5. He made another classic point about games on Epic doing better than games on Steam, according to sales data. He's likely talking about Metro Exodus, which sold more than Metro Last Light on Steam. To anyone, it's pretty obvious why that happened. Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light gained popularity fairly recently, and I can't remember there ever being big advertisement for the franchise before Exodus. So naturally, yes, a highly anticipated sequel is going to sell more on an exclusive store than a previous game that's been released twice and wasn't popular at release. Anyway, sorry for that tangent. I've just seen that argument a million times, and it's really old and misleading to people who don't know much about storefronts. Touching on the AMA one last time, Russ mentions that he expects the player base to be higher than if it was on Steam. And if he didn't believe this, he would not have done the deal. That's a quote from him. This point is very interesting, considering everyone's disdain for the store. Yes, AAA titles do well in the store, because people want to play them. Borderlands 3 may be on the Epic Store, but it's going to sell, I assure you. It's a sequel people have been waiting years for, and it's probably going to be great. This is an indie game, with no marketing, with the last direct title made in 2000, and he made a decision that went against all the fans who pre-ordered, all the fans in the Discord who said they didn't want it on Epic, that they were worried it was going to be an Epic Game Store only game, all the new people who wanted to jump in but were afraid of it moving to the Epic Store. So you really have to wonder if he's actually being willfully ignorant, or if he's just putting on some sort of ruse so they don't look as bad as they're actually being. The Mechwarrior 5 refund page 502'd shortly after the announcement that there would be refunds, and just that day there were around 4,000 confirmed refunds and 20,000 pre-orders in total, according to the AMA. Refunds were prompt, and among the few supporting them, a point has been made that they should be raised for offering refunds and addressing them so hastily. This, however, is something that I do not think they should be applauded for. This was something they had to do. They didn't need more bad PR, and if they didn't offer it at all, it could go to court on the grounds of false advertising, as users agreed to purchase a Steam key, and Valve no longer allows for games to be like Metro Exodus. Basically what I mean is no more keys for games that aren't out for everyone. As far as the refund numbers go, looking at the least possible amount of confirmed refunds, assuming they all bought just only a $60 version, that's $240,000 gone. I'm sure the millions Epic gave them made up for that, but you have to wonder if it hurts them at all. Seeing their fans' hard-earned money just slip out of their fingers. I've never developed the game, so I'm not in his shoes, but from my point of view, this decision was just shitty. He acts like indie games on Steam have no chance to grow, or haven't grown, when we've seen games like Binding of Isaac, we've seen games like Rocket League, and more recently Mordhau, 3 very different games, one being a sports game about cars, one being a roguelite, and, Mordhau's medieval, but 3 very different games, and none of them expected to take off as well as they did. Even the developer of Mordhau says several times that he did not expect the game to take off. To claim that indie games aren't discoverable, or that Steam doesn't accurately present them, I think that's an even worse lie than the one he made before, because it's just so tragic for him to believe that, if he actually does. I've personally sat and watched games grow. I watched Cuphead take over Steam for, a couple weeks. I watched Ark leave early access. I watched Binding of Isaac get a Steam workshop, and it's really sad to see a developer give up on their fans, and that's what they did. And you can't say they didn't. Supply and demand is what your fans want, and making the game an Epic Store exclusive goes against what almost every single person I've seen who's looking forward to this game wanted. The power of a community is what PGI lost a few days ago, and I'm glad to see that I've never in my life seen such a one-sided argument. Like I said earlier, fans completely tearing them apart on Twitter, on the pre-order Discord. Hell, you can see them lighting Russ up in the AMA in the chat, making memes as he's talking. The power of a community is having a 10-year-old game, Left 4 Dead, still having over 10,000 players a day, despite no real content updates since 2012. And now, they'll have to start over. New fans will pick up the game, and it'll be in their hands from there. Hopefully the game survives until its Steam release. Let me get this straight. I don't ever want to see a company go under. I don't want to ever see people lose their jobs. And more games and more companies existing are a good thing, especially indie developers. But I believe this company knowingly made the worst decision in a really nasty and deceptive way. And if they had come clean about what they planned to do for months, Russ said this in the AMA, for months, it wouldn't have gone as bad as it did. I really truly think it would not have gone as bad as it did. Him explaining things how he did now just seems deceptive. It doesn't seem like this was something that he wanted to do, and really mulled over and thought about. It seemed like they just took the money from Epic rather than giving their fans a chance, giving their own game a chance to grow. So, that's the end of my thoughts. I'll try to put all my sources to everything I talked about in the description, the AMA, the tweets, anything else that verifies what I said in this video. Like I said, I didn't want to risk having it taken down. I wanted to make this video because I feel that the fan base for Mechwarrior isn't huge, and I made a thread on the r/fuckepic subreddit, and talking to the fans of the series made me feel the pain I've felt with video game franchises that have ended or gone kind of sour or had some dumb fucking developer make really stupid decisions and just kill the game. So, by all means, explain your stance in the description, whether you're buying the game on Epic, waiting for Steam, or putting on the black hat and sailing the 7 seas, so to speak. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know if you support them or against them, whatever. Have a good day to all, and thanks for watching.